It's 2 a.m. In a typical Western nursery, a baby's piercing wail shatters the silence, signaling hunger as parents scramble to warm a bottle. But thousands of miles away in a Japanese home, a different scene unfolds. A mother quietly lifts her infant from the futon at the very first subtle shift, a tiny stretch, a soft sigh, and begins feeding before a single tear is shed. The room remains eerily calm. Why is this so common in Japan? Are these babies genetically predisposed to be quieter? Are they less demanding? Or do these mothers possess some mysterious sixth sense? Here is where the misunderstanding begins. In the West, we are often warned to let babies cry a little, fearing that rushing to their every whim will spoil them. We push for early self-soothing, but Japanese parents do the exact opposite. They anticipate needs to prevent crying altogether. And paradoxically, this extreme early dependency creates some of the most fiercely independent, self-regulated children in the world. So, what is actually happening in these crucial first 6 months? The secret doesn't lie in how to soothe a crying baby, but in a much deeper psychological loop. Let's decode it. In Western culture, a baby's cry is often viewed as a healthy form of communication. We are conditioned to believe that responding instantly to every whimper creates a demanding toddler. This is a reactive model. We wait for the loud signal, then we fix the problem. In Japan, however, a crying baby is viewed quite differently. It is often considered a missed signal, a late cue. The Japanese approach is intensely proactive. They believe that absolute satisfaction in the newborn stage is the actual foundation of self-confidence, not a recipe for spoiling a child. And this is where the science of child development reveals something fascinating. Research into infant neurobiology shows that when a baby is left to cry, their brain floods with cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Repeated spikes in cortisol wire the nervous system to remain in a chronic state of high alert. By anticipating needs before the tears fall, Japanese parents keep their babies' cortisol levels remarkably low, establishing a naturally calmer emotional baseline. But here is the part most adults never stop to think about. If you don't wait for the cry, how do you know what the baby actually needs? To answer this, we must explore 3 core concepts that define Japanese parenting. The first one will completely change how you view infant behavior. The first concept we need to understand is a uniquely Japanese psychological construct called Amae. Pronounced Amae, it is a notoriously difficult word to translate into English. At its core, Amae describes the innate human desire to depend completely on the love, patience, and indulgence of another person. It is the art of absolute surrender. In the first 6 months of life, Japanese mothers fully embrace Amae. They accept the infant's 100% dependency without any resentment, hesitation, or fear of creating a clingy child. In the West, parents are often warned not to hold their babies too much. There is a lingering cultural anxiety that if you carry them constantly or soothe every minor whimper, the infant will eventually learn to manipulate you. We are obsessed with teaching independence from the exact moment the umbilical cord is cut. But here is a question you should ask yourself. Have you ever wondered why we are so terrified of a newborn manipulating us? The scientific truth is quite liberating. An infant's brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for calculated, manipulative behavior, is entirely undeveloped at this stage. When a newborn fusses, it is an automatic survival reflex, not a strategic demand. By leaning into Amae, Japanese parents are practicing what developmental psychologists call secure attachment in its purest form. When an infant is allowed to depend completely on their caregiver, their amygdala, the brain's fear center, receives continuous signals that the world is a highly safe and responsive place. They simply don't have to fight to be heard. Paradoxically, this absolute permission to be dependent early on creates a powerful psychological safety net. And knowing their needs will always be met, the child eventually steps into the world with profound confidence, not anxiety. So how can you apply this? The shift is entirely in your mindset. The next time your baby needs you, try reframing your internal dialogue. Instead of thinking, "My baby is demanding my attention again," tell yourself, "My baby is seeking a safe connection." But what looks gentle and intuitive on the surface actually requires a highly specific skill. Because to read a baby this accurately, without ever waiting for them to cry, Japanese parents cannot just rely on guesswork. They use a completely different psychological tool to stay one step ahead. But how do Japanese parents know exactly when to step in if the baby hasn't made a sound? This brings us to the second pillar of their parenting philosophy, Senzaiteki Yochi, pronounced Senzaiteki Yochi. Broadly translated, it means unconscious anticipation, or the skill of predictive intuition. To understand this, we have to look at our own default settings. Most of the modern world operates on a highly reactive system. We treat a baby's cry as the starting gun to take action. We wait for the loud, undeniable signal, and then we rush to fix the problem. But Japanese parents view a full-blown cry not as an initial communication, but as a system failure. To them, a crying baby is a red alert. Their entire strategy is built around intercepting the issue while it is still a yellow alert. And this is where people usually get it wrong. We assume this level of constant anticipation means these parents must be exhausted, neurotically hovering over their babies every second of the day. But what they are actually doing is simply mastering the quiet art of reading micro cues. Long before an infant wails from hunger, sleepiness, or a wet diaper, their tiny body broadcasts a dozen silent signals: a slight acceleration in breathing rhythm, a specific repetitive twitch of the fingers, a subtle widening of the eyes, or a restless turning of the head. By tuning out the noise and focusing on these micro cues, a caregiver can intervene before the baby's nervous system ever registers distress. The scientific payoff of this proactive approach is immense. By consistently solving problems at the yellow alert stage, they prevent the sudden spikes of cortisol that accompany a screaming fit. The child's emotional baseline is effectively trained to remain calm. If you want to apply this, the first step is actually the hardest. You must embrace the silence. You cannot read a baby's micro cues if your attention is constantly fractured by a smartphone or background noise. It requires sitting in intentional observation when your child is perfectly fine, learning the unique physical vocabulary of their body. By mastering Senzaiteki Yochi, Japanese parents eliminate the battle of the cry before it even begins. But reading the cues is only half of the equation. Once they know what the baby needs, how do they deliver comfort so deeply that the baby rarely feels the urge to scream? The answer lies in a physical practice that most modern parents abandon far too early. So how do Japanese parents deliver this proactive comfort? The answer lies in the third and final pillar, skinship, pronounced sukinship pu. While the word sounds like an English invention, it is a distinctly Japanese concept referring to the deep, continuous physical bond between parent and child through skin-to-skin contact. If Amae is the mindset and Senzaiteki Yochi is the strategy, skinship is the physical execution. In their first months, Japanese babies spend an extraordinary amount of time physically attached to their mothers. Historically, this was done using an onbuhimo, a traditional soft carrier that straps the baby to the mother's back, allowing her to work while keeping the child close. Even today, constant baby wearing and safe co-sleeping are the cultural norm. In many Western countries, parents are encouraged to put babies in their own cribs, or even their own rooms, as early as possible to foster independence. Physical separation is viewed as a necessary developmental milestone, But what looks like simple cuddling to an outsider is actually doing something much deeper to the infant's brain. From a neurobiological standpoint, skinship acts as an external regulatory system for the baby. A newborn's nervous system is immature. It cannot regulate its own temperature, heart rate, or emotional state efficiently. When a baby is held tightly against a parent's chest, a process called co-regulation occurs. The infant's breathing syncs with the adult's. The steady heartbeat acts as a physical metronome, calming their nervous system. More importantly, this continuous physical contact triggers a massive, steady release of oxytocin, the love hormone, which acts as a natural antidote to the stress hormone cortisol we mentioned earlier. Because the baby feels physically anchored to their primary caregiver, they simply don't experience the primal panic of abandonment that often triggers intense crying. If you want to integrate this, the application is straightforward. Stop rushing physical independence. Maximize your time using a soft baby wrap. Treat physical touch not as a reward for good behavior or a soothing tactic for a crying fit, but as the default state of your baby's existence. These three concepts, the mindset of Amae, the predictive skill of Senzaiteki Yochi, and the physical anchor of skinship, create a perfect loop of security. But how does this extreme early dependency actually shape the child's future? The answer is the ultimate paradox of parenting. So what is the ultimate paradox of parenting? It is the realization that true independence is not taught by pushing a child away, but by pulling them closer. Japanese parents do not have genetically quieter babies. They have simply mastered an ecosystem of early emotional regulation. By embracing the mindset of Amae, they remove the modern fear of being manipulated. Through the predictive intuition of Senzaiteki Yochi, they intercept distress before it becomes a neurological emergency. And with continuous skinship, they provide the physical anchor a developing brain needs to feel entirely safe. This triad prevents the infant's nervous system from entering a chronic state of fight or flight. The profound truth is that a child who is allowed absolute dependency in their first 6 months doesn't stay dependent forever. They step into the world with a secure baseline, knowing they don't have to scream to be heard. But before you completely rethink your nursery setup, there is one crucial reality check we need to discuss about infant behavior. If this perspective challenged your views, share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe for more deep dives into child psychology. Before we wrap up, remember that every baby is wonderfully unique. While these cultural philosophies offer powerful insights into emotional regulation, they do not erase the reality of those incredibly tough, sleepless nights every parent faces. And the information shared in this video explores developmental psychology and cultural wisdom, and it should never replace professional medical, psychological, or educational advice. If your baby is consistently distressed, always consult your pediatrician. Have you ever tried this anticipation approach with your own child? Let us know in the comments below, and subscribe for more fascinating deep dives into child development.